Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerers Guild. Today on Sorcerer's Shadow Volume 2, we are going to be doing the final video associated with the essay Naturally Occurring Hauntings. And today we will be talking about the Nameless Dead, how to use them, and some of the dangers that come with working with the Nameless Dead. Okay, so the Nameless Dead. What do I mean by that? That's a very nebulous concept, yeah? It's kind of hard to pin down. But what it is, it's the bits and pieces of charge that are left after death that manage to weave themselves together. It's like I mentioned before about how when someone dies and they think, oh no, I left my house unlocked. And their anchor point becomes either the keys associated with that or the door or something like that, because a bit of that charge goes back into the body thinking about that moment. But then there's an anchor point of the keys, the door, or something like that. These are those desires that didn't have an anchor point. This is that thought of, oh, I wish I could have just one more piece of that Wygo steak that I had back in the day, or that piece of lobster, or one more cigarette, or things that are more transient, but that desire is strong and gets connected to other people's thoughts that have a similar theme. So the Nameless Dead is just energy wrapping around itself, convulsing around itself. And in order to keep going, in order to keep moving, it has to feel towards those desires. We can think of it like a conglomerate mass of emotions and lusts and needs and wants that all just got twisted up together. And it has many heads, so you're not always dealing with the whole thing. You're just dealing with the parts of it that you have intrigued. So, why would we want to work with such a thing? Well, for one thing, the Nameless Dead are very accommodating, especially if you can offer them things that they want. And that would be things like, well, most often food, cigarettes, any of your more base desires are what the Nameless Dead are seeking. So offering them food, wine, anything like that is what will draw them in. And then you have to tell them that you want something for these things. Now, as I said before in other episodes, they are not bound to the truth. So there are some inherent problems with working with the Nameless Dead or anything like that. And the Nameless Dead especially, they're going to have either a tendency to flatter and get you excited and just tell you, yes, we can do the thing, yes, we can do the thing, and get you and agree to do all kinds of stuff that they can't actually do just to get you to pour another glass of wine. Or you act to them with fear, and they can become very frightening. And the more afraid you become, the more powerful that momentum of power becomes. And this is one of them things where most definitely you cannot react to the Nameless Dead with fear, because it will compound on top of itself. And they can actually become quite powerful and begin taking on whatever characteristics you begin imagining within your fear. So, we need to approach the Nameless Dead calmly. But also, you cannot approach them with too much force. You can't force them into telling the truth. But also, the more force you use with them, the less power your offerings have. Because now you're changing the parameters. Like I say in the book, if you are kind with them and keep reciprocity, they need your permission to eat from your food, to take from things. But if you start pushing on them, they will find ways to nibble on you. And that's kind of where some of today's stories will come in, is that I've seen many occasions with people that are working with the Nameless Dead and pushing. I've known lots of people who claim they could command the dead. But when you meet these people, there's always little things going wrong. Their milk spoils easily. If they leave their food out, it goes bad quicker. It goes cold quicker. And it's because the Nameless Dead are nibbling at their food and even at their joys. These people that tend to claim they can command the dead are very rarely happy. So why would one work with the nameless dead, and how? So as I said, working with the nameless dead, there's a lot of trust issues there. But they can do things and even answer questions, but you need to find ways to verify. Say, if someone can give me the right answer to this, then I will give them a glass of wine and then do the divination. Find out if the answer is true before you give the wine. Because this is basically like crowdsourcing. Everybody can say, oh yeah, we can do it, but it'll only be that part that can do it that you feed. And if you say, give me the answer and I will feed you, then they're just going to tell you whatever comes to mind. Whatever the quickest thing they can think of, just to get that one little drop of wine or steak or whatever it is. So as I said, you wait till you get the right answer and then verify it before you actually feed them when you're working with the nameless dead. Or you get them to do other things besides divination. One of the things the nameless dead are very good at is creating a connection when nothing else can. Now, when you're working with the nameless dead, they have to be given a vessel. There are many different types of vessels that are possible to use. It could be even just a picture of a skeleton or a skull, something like that you could use, literally a poster that you just put up and use that and name it as your vessel, as long as it's something to do with death. Alternatively, if you don't feel like using a skull poster or a skeleton or something like that, one of the most traditional methods is an eggshell, because it houses the energy. And it's great for working with the nameless dead, because with the nameless dead, most things I say give license to depart. With the nameless dead, you either have to find a way to keep it so that if they don't leave, they can't do any harm, or you do have to make them leave. And of course, you can banish, but I don't like banishing because I have so many different things in my room all the time that I wouldn't want to accidentally affect with the banishing, getting rid of the nameless dead. So one of the other things you can do is use an eggshell as the vessel, do the work, feed them their whatever their payment was, and then no more vessel. There you go. Nameless dead are gone. They're not there anymore. So this is a technique that is actually from Welsh cunning, I believe, but either way, it's a European technique that's been used for a very long time for working with the dead, and also in some cases working with the Fae, but that's a completely different video. I don't want to get those two intermingled, except for there is one thing important there. When you're dealing with minor Fae, the type that might turn up in eggshells, and the nameless dead, either one are very fickle things that make sure you verify anything that they tell you before you take it as divinatory truth. Okay, so anyways, back to the nameless dead and how they can create links. This is one of the areas that I find them much more useful. In today's story, because that's actually the story we're going to tell, is about Ouija boards again. So, with the Ouija board, you are often interacting with the nameless dead. That is the most likely thing to come through because they want that attention. They're right there on the surface. Any spirits that are in the area or the nameless dead, like I said in the last video, those are the most likely things to come up. And for divination, well, we'll have two little stories about the Ouija board today. For divination, when you're working with the nameless dead, I was working on the Ouija board, and something claimed to be my Bubba, or my grandfather on my dad's side, and I knew it wasn't. It was simply giving the personification of what I wanted to see. It's one of them cases, it's very obvious that it's telling you what you want to hear. And it starts telling me that I'm going to find the love of my life on a little island that's out in the Great Salt Lake nearby, that I would go into the ranger station. I would meet a red-headed ranger there working at the customer service desk at the little gift shop there, and I would fall in love with this woman, and they would be the love of my life. Well, like I said, you verify these things before you pay them. And they got close. I go all the way out there to the island, I walk into the gift station, and there was a red-headed woman behind the counter. However, I was 17 at the time, or 18 at the time, and the woman behind the counter was at least 30 years my senior, probably more. And I don't mean to be ageist, but at that age, I did not want to fall in love with someone that much older than me. I mean, maybe I could have verified it, and it would have been amazing, and it's something that I should regret not doing to this day. But I feel like it was an example of the divination not quite coming out right, because, well, if that was the love of my life, then it seems like I would have been into it, and I wasn't. I saw the person, I was like, no, that's not so good. So, divinatory truth through the nameless dead, meh. I mean, I have a different perspective on it now that I'm older myself, but I wouldn't want an 18-year-old hitting on me either. So, fair enough. Anyways, on to the other story, and this one took place actually a little bit before that. I was, I believe, 16 or 17 at this time, but we used the Ouija board. And rather than giving it that, using it for divinatory purposes, like I said, which I have found it not to be useful for, and I had already, by that age, decided that there just wasn't any good knowledge you could really get from the Ouija board. But there are other things. You can get it to create a link. And there was someone at the school that I was having trouble with. There was a bit of a coven war that happened with me in high school. I think some of the people on the other side of that are probably watching this video, but we're going to tell the story anyways. At any rate, we had split into two groups, and the other group, their girlfriend was causing a lot of problems for me, and he was very good at preventing me from getting any type of links to her. He had managed to prevent me from being able to actually make any kind of energetic connection to this person. So we got out the Ouija board, and we spoke with the nameless dead, and they can link through desire, through wants, to any person who has them same desires and wants. So I asked the nameless dead to make that connection for me, and then deliver whatever energy I would pump through. And it worked very, very well. They didn't come back to school for a few days. Lots of things happened. If the person I suspect is watching this video, sorry, man. You started it, I think. Long time ago. Anyways, not trying to start nothing. Just telling a story. So, those are today's stories about why you would work with the nameless dead. Some of the problems with working with the nameless dead is that they cannot be trusted, but they can be used to create links, have effects places, but always, whether it's divination or something you've asked them to do, verify before payment when working with the nameless dead. It's very important. But don't force. Work with reciprocity and appreciation, because if you start being impolite, they can be impolite back. And that includes finding ways to remain once they've been banished in some cases. Because you got to realize, again, we're dealing with crowdsourcing here. Lots of whole bunch of different creative ideas happening all at once. It's really hard to plug all the holes. Then the nameless dead, when the horde of astral zombies essentially is coming in, it's real hard to keep all the windows closed. So it's better to just keep them in a good mood. Better to keep them making deals, rather than having them become upset if you're working with them. So, don't push, they won't pull. Anyways, I think that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you once again for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. Oh, and if you would like to share the video, this might be a fun one to share for some reason. Anyways, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.